This month on In Case You Missed It, we travel back to 1754 when the citizens of Windham, Connecticut awoke one night to the sounds of screaming, the likes of which they had never heard before. Many feared that Judgment Day had arrived. A scouting party ventured towards it, and Rhode Island PBS Weekly has the story of what they found and how the legacy of that night lives on. Each year, 6,000 animals find a haven in the Ocean State where they are rescued and rehabilitated. But the ultimate goal is to return them to the wild within a mile of where they were found. Meet the dedicated Rhode Islanders who work to help creatures great and small. And former extreme skier Jamie Mo-Crazy joins Story in the Public Square to discuss her journey from the slopes to motivational speaking. All this and much more, in case you missed it. Welcome to In Case You Missed It, featuring some of the best local content from Rhode Island PBS this month and a sneak peek at what's coming soon. First up, one unseasonably warm June night in the mid-18th century would go down in the history books. Stories, songs, and eventually a piece of modern infrastructure, a bridge linking Route 32 with Route 66 in Connecticut, tell the tale of one little town's enduring affinity with amphibians.
Whether you arrive in Windham, Connecticut from the north, south, east, or west, the first thing to greet you is a large green face.
They've got a lot of character too, don't you think?
They do.
They do.
4 big bullfrogs, as solid as anvils, planted there on the Willimantic Bridge like a concrete lily pad right in the middle of town.
So I'm sure I'm not the first person to ask this, but what's with all the frogs?
So welcome to Windham. That is a very popular question. A lot of people who arrive here say, what's the deal with the frogs?
At the pharmacy and the library on Main Street, the hospital and the local radio station, Windham honors amphibians. The town's only real rival in frog mania may be Calaveras County, California, home of the Jumping Frog Jubilee, celebrating Mark Twain's famous 1865 short story. But Windham's association with amphibians predates that by more than a century, an obscure bit of colonial history.
1754, summertime. It was right in the middle of the French and Indian War, so people were a bit on edge. I think I saw some numbers that there were approximately 100 people living within the general area of this green right here.
So they heard a noise.
They heard a noise, and it was about 100 yards into the woods off the road.
Susan Herrick is an herpetologist, aka frog biologist, who was born and raised here.
Men are getting up out of their houses and arming themselves, and against what they thought was an invasion of either natives or somebody else during this rough period of time. And everybody was apparently afeared for their lives, is what some of the writing is.
Because of the noise.
Because of the noise.
Local historian Bev York picks up the tale.
They got their muskets and their pitchforks, and some of the militia started to go up the hill toward the sound.
What did they think it was?
Well, they thought it might have been natives.
They thought they were under attack.
They thought they were under attack by natives.
Don't let the peace of the lily pond fool you. Mating season for bullfrogs, happening just this time of year, can get pretty fierce. Just ask the BBC's David Attenborough.
The males occupy the center of the pond and fight to hold a place there. Their calls will attract females, but they will have to get to the center if they're to meet the strongest males.
The way that bullfrogs breed is the males, who are the biggest and the baddest of the pond, set up a territory on the pond edge. So like if this table were a pond, right, they'd be set up 5-6 feet away from each other, and they would say, sit there all summer. This is my spot. And they'd croak with that jug-a-rum call that everybody is so familiar with. to tell other frogs that are in the pond, I'm here and this is my spot, and
Don't even think about it.
all you other males buzz off because I'm holding this spot for the ladies.
Herrick believes the terrible sound that so spooked the locals in 1754 was the result of a colonial climate disaster.
It's purported that there was a drought here at that time. In 1754, between late June and early July, apparently it was pretty dry. And I think the pond edge shrunk a little too much and they gave up trying to hold territories and did what we call mate acquisition strategy, switching. So instead of defending territories, they did what's called a lek, which is where all the males just sort of gather together and display themselves, sort of like a singles bar, if you will.
So instead of singing a froggy love song, they were kind of having a communal primal scream.
Having a mosh pit, yeah, exactly.
You can watch the full story at ripbs.org/weekly. Next, a Saunderstown nonprofit is taking over for Mother Nature with a little bit of nurturing. Now they've become the perfect place to go for injured or abandoned wild creatures, both great and small.
I think I wrote down in a journal in first grade that I wanted to be a vet when I grew up. Yeah, I always loved animals.
This is the fulfillment of that childhood dream. However, Dr. Mariah Beck is no ordinary veterinarian, and this is not your typical animal hospital. It's where the wild things are.
I never know what's going to walk in the door. Last year, the clinic intook 200 species of animals.
What might look like a puppy is really a coyote cub from an orphaned litter of 4. A raptor with a broken wing is examined. A turtle is waiting for its shell to mend. Raccoon kits have to be weighed. Whether furry or feathered, there are creature comforts here at the Wildlife Clinic of Rhode Island. Dr. Beck says there are multiple ethical questions to be grappled with each day.
Deciding, releases, when something's ready for release, if it is viable for release, which things should be euthanized, which things should be treated, how far to push the medicine with a wild creature that's, very stressed every time you're handling it.
What do we have here?
That was the money that was running in my parking lot.
Patients are brought daily from concerned Rhode Islanders and animal control officers. Dr. Beck and the staff care for 6,000 mammals, birds, and reptiles a year. Most of the team is volunteer, specially trained to handle those born to be wild. Assignments include getting baby squirrels that have fallen from the nest to nurse formula from a syringe. Others patiently feed worms to days-old hatchlings.
There you go.
In addition, the staff includes some 40 volunteers spread out across the state. People like Kristen Fletcher, who is a home rehabilitator. The work requires education and experience before receiving a permit from the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management.
We have to have our own private facilities approved by the state as well, that they are away from other people and pets and whatnot, so that it's quiet. And then you never raise a single animal, so they will be raised as groups. The law is that if you don't have trained and licensed individuals, that every wild animal and bird that's injured, orphaned, not able to survive in the environment would need to be euthanized humanely.
So Fletcher got the state training and licensing, and for many years she has brought wildlife into her house.
I was always an animal person, and even as a kid, preferred my pets. My daughters found a squirrel after, I think it was Hurricane Bob, on the ground, and I looked and looked and looked for a place to bring him, and back then there really wasn't any place to bring them.
There are times Fletcher has had as many as 30 cottontail rabbits at once, like this baby bunny, that need to be fed 3 times a day. But their stay is always temporary. It is illegal for anyone to keep wildlife as pets.
We're very careful about that, and that's part of the training to be a wildlife rehabilitator, because your goal is to release a wild animal back into the environment. You don't want them thinking that it's good to hang around with humans, and so you don't spend time petting them or talking to them. You provide them with what they need.
Fletcher also has a bat cage in her heated garage where she rehabilitates these winged mammals. About a dozen years ago, it was illegal to rehabilitate them, but she says the state realized bats were getting a bad rap.
So many animals do. And
Because
Because they're at night, and certainly Bela Lugosi didn't help their cause any at all.
With Dracula.
Exactly, they all eat bugs.
Bats protect humans by eating enormous amounts of insects, which help ward off lethal diseases such as West Nile virus and Eastern equine encephalitis. Bats also assist farmers as natural pest killers.
It's a male, big brown bat. He was actually caught. He caught his wing on the outside shutter of a home in Coventry and was there for several days.
Watch the full story anytime at ripbs.org/weekly and tune in for all new episodes of Rhode Island PBS Weekly Sundays at 7:30 p.m. with an encore on Wednesdays. Next, on A Lively Experiment, Jim Hummel sits down with Michael DiBiase, President and CEO of the Rhode Island Public Expenditure Council, to discuss Rhode Island's ballooning budget, which has increased more than 50% in 5 years. Much of the spending is related to COVID relief, which won't be available much longer.
Years ago, the General Assembly passed a budget that was just over $9 billion, reflecting a steady yearly increase in spending the past 2 decades. The proposed budget for next year, more than $14 billion, a 50% increase, and even more than Governor McKee had proposed in January.
A lot of it is COVID relief money, which is going to go away very soon.
Michael DiBiase heads up the Rhode Island Public Expenditure Council, a nonprofit business watchdog group. He says there are several factors resulting in the eye-popping bottom line.
Yeah, taxes went up considerably. Some of that's inflation, right? I mean, some of that is that, people were making more money, things are more expensive to buy, so sales taxes go up. But there was PPP loans and unemployment relief, and also just the economy ran a lot hotter.
So does that mean, though, that the overall $14 billion could come back into the $13 billion range?
No, I think the total budget number will come down. It's come down this year from last year because that federal pandemic money is going down. The state general revenue spending will not likely go down, but it's a much slower growth rate.
The influx of federal money has given state leaders a reprieve from chronic deficits that had become an annual rite of passage.
It wasn't that long ago we were looking at 200, 250 million, 300 million deficit going back to maybe 17 and 18. Do you see storm clouds on the horizon in the out years?
I wouldn't say storm clouds, but it's just if you're spending, if you're growing your spending by 6, 7, 8% a year, and then the next year it's 2.5%, it's going to mean a lot of difficult decisions. We're going to have to look at, are all the programs working? Do some of them need to be cut back or consolidated? That's going to be a different environment.
Watch A Lively Experiment Fridays at 7 p.m. with an encore Sundays at noon, or on demand at ripbs.org/lively. In 2015, a traumatic brain injury brought her career as a record-breaking freestyle skier to a halt. But Jamie Crane Mawsey, also known as Jamie Mo Crazy, pushed on, becoming an advocate and motivational speaker for others with traumatic brain injuries. 8 years later, she sits down on Story in the Public Square to share her story.
So you were on track for the Olympics after this incredible career already as a young person. And then came April 11th, 2015. You were skiing in Whistler, British Columbia, and you had an accident. Tell us about that. Tell us what happened.
I was going up to World Tour Finals with my little sister. It was actually the first time she had made it to compete in World Tour Finals in halfpipe. And this day was the slopestyle day. And on competition day, my first run, I ended up in 4th place. And now, you guys don't know me very well, but I'm very competitive. And if you're ambitious and competitive, 4th place does not cut it, right? So I had to upgrade and get on that podium. So I changed my off-axis backflip to an off-axis double backflip. And on landing, I actually landed the trick on my feet. But I caught an edge and I whiplashed my head onto the snow. My brain started bleeding in 8 spots and I hurt my right brainstem. And my little sister was watching that run and she heard on the ski patrol radio, "We need all hands on deck and a helicopter on standby." She skied down and she saw me convulsing, spewing blood with my eyes rolled back in my head.
Had you ever worried about an accident like that or thought about an accident like that? I mean, it's happened to other people as well, but prior to that moment, was that ever in your mind?
Not really. I mean, accidents, yes, I'd torn my ACL a couple of times, but I wasn't really focused on that because I had the belief that if I took the time to go through the steps and go through the training and put in the hours of preparation, it would be okay. Which is interesting because I also, after my traumatic brain injury, didn't really have PTSD symptoms that much. And I think one of the reasons why, because it's very common from people who come back from war, they have a lot of PTSD symptoms. But when you're at war, the whole time you're terrified that you might die. Versus for me, my day until a millisecond before I crashed, even when I was falling, I probably was like, okay, this isn't done right, but it'll be okay. So I was happy and it was a beautiful sunny day. I was happy. I had a lot of friends. I was at World Tour finals. So my mindset was positive going into it.
So you were in a coma for a period of time. What happened when you came out of that coma? That would be, of course, the beginning of your road to recovery, but talk about that early period and what happened.
Yes, so I was in a coma for 10 days, and then when I woke up, that means I could open my eyes on command, which means that I had serious amnesia. Like the movie 50 First Dates, I had no memory of what was happening in my life for 6 weeks. So during the initial stages of recovery, I have no memory of relearning how to open my eyes, when I was in the wheelchair, when I was hooked up to everything. I don't really have memory of that portion of life.
Did you have to learn how to talk again, to walk again? What was involved in going from that point to where you are now? You're obviously an awesome person speaking to us from Utah.
Yes, I had to relearn every basic gross motor skill. It was like being born again. When I came out of the coma, I was like a newborn infant and I could open my eyes, but that was about it. I couldn't talk. I actually went through Rosetta Stone in English and I failed the first lesson 7 times because it was that hard for me to be able to relearn how to talk. Another interesting thing, and this is different, the only thing that's different from being a baby in my situation was since I had a feeding tube, I also couldn't swallow things very easily. So when it went to the stage where I could swallow water on my own, it took me weeks to be able to swallow water again on my own.
Tune in for Story in the Public Square Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. with an encore Sunday mornings at 11. You can also watch on demand anytime at watch.ripbs.org. In our next story, Dr. Kiara Butler sits down with writer and community organizer Terry Wright and activist and professor of sociology at Providence College, Eric Hirsch, to discuss housing inequities and homelessness in marginalized communities in Rhode Island.
So there are a lot of misconceptions around homelessness. Can you tell us more about the root causes?
So the root cause is really the fact that the housing market isn't serving close to a majority of households in Rhode Island because the rents are so astronomically high. I think the housing market is built and operates to provide profits for people, the landlords and real estate owners. It's not built to do what you would think it's supposed to do, which is to provide a roof over the head of everyone who lives here in Rhode Island. So inevitably, when you have $2,000 a month rents for a 2-bedroom apartment, you're going to have people who fall off of the ladder, of trying to get housing completely, and those are people who wind up homeless. Often they'll double up with friends or families. If you think about it, that's just about what everyone would do if they lose their housing. Find people, friends or relatives, family members, to help them out. But a lot of times those situations don't last due to overcrowding or the fact that people can't contribute money to the rent or mortgage, and then they get kicked out of that situation, and then they're on the street. So this has gotten much worse with regard to COVID, because COVID means you can't live in an overcrowded situation. It meant that we had to reduce the number of people in our shelters so that people didn't get sick. For a while, when the federal government was paying for it, the state helped out by putting people in hotels. Once that federal money ran out, then people were back on the street. So we have hundreds of people living outside. The latest number is about 330 people. We think that's an underestimate for sure. But we just don't find it acceptable that people are living outside year-round for the first time in the state's history, that kind of number. And we're going to keep working until that's no longer the case. We will get roofs over the heads of people no matter what we have to do to make that happen.
And Terry, what would you say about those root causes?
I think it's just the way the world was built. There's always been inequities, racism, systemic racism. It's just getting worse now. People get displaced by fires. Evictions are happening. There are no tenant protections right now. So that just adds to this already growing list of unhoused folks. There's no eviction record sailing either. So if you're getting evicted for non-payment because landlords every 30 days legally, they could raise the rents.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Even with a lease?
Even with a lease, yes. Tenants are being priced out and in court it's due to non-payment majority of those evictions. So you take that into consideration. You think about our teenagers 18-year-olds who age out of their homes. Landlords don't want to rent to them either. They don't have enough credit. They need someone to sign for them. So there's a mixture of everything out there on the streets right now.
Watch past episodes of Generation Rising on ripbs.org/Generation Rising and new episodes every other Friday at 7:30 p.m. Please check our schedule for dates. And now, here's a preview of what's coming in July on Rhode Island PBS. Pollywog Pond is an early learner video game portal to a variety of content areas, including music, videos, mini games, and reading. Rhode Island PBS has partnered with the creator to produce a children's puppet series based on the Pollywog game and characters.
Oh, hey there, Derby. What's with the ruffled feathers? Spring cleaning?
Well, hello, Burb. This is a feather duster. I'm cleaning my front door for when our new friends arrive.
Our new friends? Oh, the friends coming to Pollywog Pond to visit. Oh, now I remember. Yes, a clean door is a must.
Well, maybe I should leave a note asking them to knock on the door when they come so I don't miss them. I wish I had a doorbell.
Hey, I could be your doorbell.
What?
Oh,
how could you?
I'll stand right here, and when someone comes up to your door, all they have to do is push the doorbell.
Huh?
Oh, look, just a touch of my nose.
That's not a doorbell.
Oh, I'll try again. It can work.
I don't think so. Maybe I should just have them knock when they come. That'll work out better.
Oh, I can do that.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's me.
It's me who?
It's me, Burb. I just knocked on your door.
Well, thank you for dropping by. Would you like to help me with my spring cleaning? Our new friends are coming. I need to clean everything.
Cleaning? That's a pretty big tree to clean. Well, I just rememberated. I think I'm supposed to be somewhere. Very important. Gotta go. Bye.
Don't worry. He'll be back in time for your visit. We'll see you soon.
Pollywog Pond premieres Monday, July 3rd at 8:30 a.m. Thank you for joining us this month. We'll see you next time in case you missed it.